listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So I know everybody knows because they clicked on this episode and it says the title of what we're going to be talking about. So I just thought, what better way to talk about an unhinged show than to be really unhinged for this episode. And I am currently running on maybe an hour of sleep. I don't know. Maybe less. Maybe slightly more. I don't know.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a night and I just couldn't. I did all my tricks. Okay,
usually, what are your tricks?
A bowl of cereal usually works. Didn't work. Getting all in my get really warm. So put like sweatshirt on, sweatpants, big socks. Didn't work. Listen to a really boring podcast, like just like blah 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 blah.
We won't name any specific podcasts.
Well, I'll tell you what I was listening to, and it wasn't. And then it got interesting, and I was laughing, and then it didn't work. I usually like, sorry guys, at not shameless, smartless. Your podcast helps me get to sleep. It's just, three guys and a guest. But then they had Simon Le Bon on it from Duran Duran, and he turned out to be quite funny. And, in the early days of Duran Duran, who isn't interested in that? You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
So then I got fascinated by that, so I had to turn that off. And then I had to try and find another one. And then I tried with a couple of others, and they didn't work. And then I had a nightmare, and then I think that's where I only had like that hour, and then I couldn't get back to sleep after the nightmare. So,
oh, no.
So what are your tricks? What do you?
I mean, tricks are hard for me. Like I have dealt with like insomnia and sort of like, I guess like anxiety-induced insomnia previously, but then also like my. It turned out it was like partly also my iron deprivation.
Ah, yes.
Oh yeah. How's that going?
So I'm better now. I'm still riding the high of my second infusion. And so I haven't been, doing those like long, like 4-hour naps during the day that really like disrupt my sleep. And I think those are a little bit separate than my anxiety induced insomnia. So when I have that, I don't have like tried and true tricks, but I do know that it almost does me zero good lying in bed. So I usually get up and I go and sit on the couch and I, kick out the recliner and I bury myself under a blanket and I just try and watch like something extremely boring and comforting on TV with like really low sound. And I can fall asleep usually within about half an hour to an hour. And then at the very least, I get a few hours on the couch.
Right. Okay. I should have gone to a second location, is what you're saying.
Second location is safe in your own home.
Yes. Yes.
I find that too. Yeah. It helps I get out of bed. Sometimes I'll try to read a few pages in a book or something because that makes me feel tired. Or just moving to a different room sometimes. You just like sitting and doing whatever for 10, 15 minutes. And then I usually feel tired and go back to sleep.
It's a weird psychological, kick in the pants because it doesn't make any sense. It's like 3 a.m. and you're just like, la, 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 hello. Like I could go to work. That's how awake I am.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I've just gotten up and worked. Like if I'm on a writing deadline, I'll just work for a few hours and then try and figure out but also I know that if I have not slept, I cannot work like a normal day the next day. It'll be piecemeal and I'll have to nap a little bit and try and get myself back on schedule for the next night. At one point when I was having ongoing issues, I found this podcast that everyone was recommending called Nothing Much Happens, Bedtime Stories to Help You Sleep by Catherine Nicolai. And they're only like 20 to 30 minutes per episode. I mean, I guess some are a little bit longer, but most of the time they round in about 30 minutes. But I actually think she is quite a good writer. And even though nothing much happens, I am a bit captivated by like
See, this is
her story structure. You can't ask a writer to listen to a story where nothing much happens, quote unquote, but then have it be like pretty decent writing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and not have me pay attention to the craft of it. So I had to put the kibosh on that. The only thing I can think of that would really work for me I've never listened to it, but I've fallen asleep to it if we've been on a road trip. Carlos knows this is a very safe podcast to listen to for him out loud and for me to sleep through. It's some man spending 4 to 6 hours on one area of subject matter, and it's just him monologuing and explaining like the history of something. It is so bad. And I mean, it's good for people who like it, but I hate it.
It's a 4-hour long podcast? Seriously?
4 to 6 hours.
4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, like it is so long. And like people, like some people love this person. I can't remember who it is, but the other thing that always used to work for me when I was younger is if I could find like a textbook from like school, easy. You read that for 5 minutes, you're gone.
Yeah, no, I'm going to try. Well, I have a hope, like this is like, I don't want to get myself all psyched up and for nothing, but I feel like I'm starting to, you're starting to feel those funny little weights that go above your eyelids.
Yep.
Just slowly. Little tiny worker bees just putting those little weights onto the top of your lids.
What a segue. You're feeling your own small swarm starting to come from
There
you.
we go. Yes. Nicely done.
Wow. Incredible. I mean, I do hope you get some sleep tonight, dude.
I will let you know in the morning. I will text you my update.
I also hope you can achieve it without any sort of like mass murders.
There's hoping, that's
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I do have my own obsessive fandom, so who knows what can happen.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you both. So who's your favorite artist?
And would you kill for them?
A chilling beginning to what we will talk about. Let's leave that unanswered till after the intro. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And we are talking about Swarm, a show that has left me shook in the best way.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, I love this show.
Okay. So
on a lot of levels.
Full disclosure here before we get further, because I don't know if this puts me into some sort of special category. I did buy a Beyonce ticket. And
I've seen Beyonce a few times.
I've seen her before, but this is the time I spent the most money on a ticket, and it was $183. Does that put me into... That's not that much. Is it? That's pretty good. That's pretty good, isn't it? Okay.
Have you seen the prices of like tickets recently?
It was a whole thing though, right? Like they came out, they were expensive, and then they got some adjustments, and so I got a ticket. Somebody else bought it, and then I paid them back, but it was $183. I just want that out there that perhaps I do have some quirks. Let's just say.
I definitely can relate to Dre, not just on a name level. The fact that her name is Andrea and it's shortened to Dre is
that's cool.
So I should be nervous here then. Okay, that's what you're saying.
I don't know any Andreas that have used that as a short name, and it's pretty cool.
No, it's a great short hand for that name. I don't think it applies to me very well, but I think it applies really well for this character. Mm-hmm. I would say that like I don't necessarily. Okay, this is gonna sound weird, but like I don't think I have any artists that I love to the extent that Dre is obsessed with Nyjah.
Very
'cause,
healthy,
like,
very healthy. That's good to get out there.
yeah,
Okay.
like but I mean, in
But
part,
have you in your life?
no, I mean, outside of Miss Piggy, no, but like, she's technically not real. But when I stood next to, like her,
Listeners, she put "not real" in air quotes.
yeah. Again, when I stood next to her, there's a full-sized puppet of her in her wedding gown at the Museum of Moving Images in Brooklyn, or whatever that museum is called. I can't remember, but Joe recommended it to me, AG, and so did you. They have like a Muppet exhibit there and a Jim Henson exhibit there. And I stood next to her and I did feel tears come to my eyes because I was like,
Wow.
I am seeing Miss Piggy like for real, you know, like that was like the first time that that had ever happened for me. But other than Miss Piggy, I think it's partly because, well, I mean, the three of us have all interviewed celebrities a lot. Once you've been stood up by one a few times, you know, you realize they're just like us. They just happen to be famous. And so I think it takes a little bit of the pedestal effect is like a little bit removed. So, but I can understand it, and I know, and I've watched other folks who I'm friends with like have this, not quite this level of fandom, but bordering.
Yeah, like I often wonder what it would be like to grow up, like in this day and age with social media and fandom, you know, to be going through your teens at this stage, and if what that would have changed about me and the way I feel about, you know, what I have been a fan of. Because you're right, like I think it's because of my age, but I don't connect with this feeling of like a kind of obsession, total obsession with, like, you know,
I have a great deal of affection.
Right?
I know that if people say they don't like Prince, R.I.P., I get very put out. Like, oh,
yeah.
So and I do feel
Noted.
what Ray does too, which is that, and who do you think has more Grammys? And who do you think is more?
Well, that's the thing.
You know,
she has a lot of good points.
She has
for
a lot
sure.
of valid points. And when people say they don't like Prince, I get a little bit like, I can feel my sort of like my neck do that twist, like I'm ready for a fight. Like just snap it in. All right, let's do this, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh my God, I had no idea. No idea.
Not to a point where I think, you know, I would take it that far. But I do feel that certain, and I mean, I think in the long run, it is when you choose it, it says something about you. That's what you're feeling, right? I mean, don't come down on my very good taste is really what I'm saying to you.
Well, and I think like so often, particularly women, like we're told that and I think that this is like just socially, like the pop stars that we love, we're told we're like silly for loving them, or like that they're not serious artists, or like they are manufactured in some way, or like their music is less important, et cetera, et cetera. So I again, there are a lot of things that I am absolutely 100% behind Dre with, in how she has, I think like internalized these slights and this misogyny and the, you know, misogynoir as well, that, you know, is directed at Nyjah, even though she has these 26 Grammy Awards, which again, like that's like such an interesting other measurement. I was like, does it make sense that like this would be the thing that Dre brings up like again and again and again? I don't know, but it, you know, cool. What an interesting measure when we think about how we know the Grammys have treated Beyonce, Beyonce as a stand-in for Nyjah, or Nyjah as a stand-in for Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like it's all of it is like really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I totally agree, but I think it feels real to me as like something a fan would think that is like a legit measurement of the greatness of,
like if you don't believe me that she's
person.
awesome, There's this other thing that really says it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I gotta say, like, so I have, it's not the same at all, but like, there is a certain level of fandom when like that I myself know I will never, ever, ever have someone in the outside world feel this way about me because I just don't create on that level. But I have like sat next to Buffy St. Marie in her signing lines for different shows and have had some people or people have come when we were doing like some book signing stuff. There are some intense people and like people who have been like this is like, you know, maybe like the 100th time they've shown up in one of her like signings or whatever. And like the staff knows her, like, or the staff knows about the person. And like, everyone's just sort of like, no, you can't be here. Like, you know, you're not allowed to be like,
well, celebrity stalkers is nothing new. We know.
No, celebrity stalkers are
those.
nothing new, but like until you like you can hear about a celebrity stalker, but like until you're like looking one or trying to get their eye line because like they can't actually look anywhere else except the famous person sitting next to you, it is a wild intensity that is like I have been told historically that you can put Aquariuses in a room with a bunch of people who are unwell. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, and that they will be able to calm the energy. There is no calming this energy. Like it is, it is an impossible vibration that is, it's very uncomfortable feeling.
Well, I mean, yeah, like we see it on all fronts these days. Like Taylor Swift fans, like are taking down Ticketmaster.
I mean, that honestly, that's useful. Like, I mean, we're talking like those. So we got to, again, I think we have to like, it's between the space of like biting and physically assaulting the object of their obsession versus like taking on like systems that are very like extractive of the fan bases. Those are different.
And they know,
but it's the same energy, right? You're talking about like this like force that they have, and I think it's like you know, that energy that is propelling Taylor Swift's fans to really want justice for these ticket prices. And it's giving them the energy.
I was going to argue that I think some celebrities know too well their fan base as well, and I always think of them as kind of like, you know, Daenerys and with the dragons. No.
I don't know.
She mobilizes the dragons and sicks them on people.
Yes,
and she wants them to do their bidding.
Yes, there is that.
Yeah.
If you know that,
Game of Thrones, AG.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, Game of Thrones. Yeah. Daenerys with the big dragons, and she just stands there, and they just come up right behind her, and they do her bidding, as you said.
Yeah. Again, I like the energy of taking on Ticketmaster. Don't care for the energy of biting a woman in the face. Or murder sprees, as it turns out. Or murder sprees.
Yes, let's just put some parameters on this conversation. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Use your manic stan energy for good, not for full-on nefariousness. Although, hold on a second. Can we just say, I know we haven't done the background or the synopsis yet, but can we just say, like, pretty satisfying to see, like, a wealthy cult full of disturbed white women be like run down and murdered? I liked it. I mean, again, in a fantasy level of this show, I liked it.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was.
Well, let's just say that episode didn't upset me.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I went further. I did say I liked it, but I appreciate you pulling back, AG.
No, I meant the level of violence.
I have a thing about that sound of a body hitting a car that's very troubling to me.
It's pretty crunchy.
It's just it's that sound that you carry, like that fear you carry around all the time when you hear a squeal of tires. And you think, oh, dear God, please don't make it go rump, bump, bump or something like that.
Yep.
So when that happens in TV shows, I get very alarmed. It's very upsetting.
No, fair enough. I mean, you know, listening to a skull get caved in.
Yeah.
Also.
Well, okay. Yeah, and so in case anyone listening hasn't watched this series, we should
Or knows what we're
just
talking about at all.
well, no, but we should just note that it's quite violent.
Quite violent.
So just you have to mentally prepare yourself that it's like violent and it's like a horror and it's a satire and it's a thriller and it's all these things, and you have to get into that headspace while you're watching, or you may be quite shocked.
I was.
Yeah,
I was quite shocked, I have to say. I really didn't. I like to go into things as cold as possible if I can.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I wrote to you guys in this when I was pitching this show. I was like, just prepare yourselves.
Yeah,
It's
but
very
you can't
murdery,
really.
very stabby.
Yeah, I'm used to that with like Scream or something. I didn't know what you meant, really. It's pretty bloodthirsty. There's a lot of blood.
I think it's the combination. Again, we should do the background and synopsis soon, but I think it's the way that they correlate the really like bloodthirsty with the ravenness of the eating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it is an interesting show to be watching in parallel with the new season of Yellow Jackets. And from a road trip perspective, to have watched Poker Face, which I adored, and I like the road trip sort of going from town to town, really enjoying the road trip of this as well, and all the different people that Dre is meeting, even as things go sideways. This show also, Swarm, is making some really brilliant use of its guest stars.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been continuously surprised at all these people showing up. And I didn't necessarily know right away who they are, but just like seeing their names in the credits or whatever, it's just like, what? Who is that?
I love it. Lisa, do you want to read the background?
Sure. Yeah. Swarm is an American satirical comedy horror thriller television series created by Janine Neighbors and Donald Glover. The series follows Dre, Dominique Fishback, a young woman whose obsession with a pop star takes a dark turn. Swarm debuted on March 17th, 2023 on Amazon Prime Video. It received generally positive reviews from critics who praised the direction, cinematography, soundtrack, and balance between its bright, vivid aesthetic and its elements of psychological horror. Though the writing drew some criticism. Fishback's performance in the series has received widespread acclaim, while the guest performances of Chloe Bailey, Billie Eilish, Heather Alice Sims, and Damson Idris have also received praise, and that's from Wikipedia.
And I can do the synopsis. Set between 2016 and 2018, Swarm follows Dre, a fan of the fictional Beyonce-esque music icon Nyjah, whose love for her favorite singer crosses the line from obsessive to murderous. After setting off on a cross-country journey, she meets a slew of characters and commits a slew of crimes. That's by Abby White at The Hollywood Reporter. I really like the hard work Slew is doing there.
Yeah. Slew of crimes, slew of characters. And she slew their faces off, too, sometimes.
Dominique Fishback. Can we just talk about what an incredible talent Dominique Fishback is?
So blown away. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I've never seen her in anything. I know she's been in quite a few things. And apparently, like, Donald Glover, like, she was on his list of people he really wanted to work with, and he called her up specifically to work on the show. But yeah, and you know, we're only talking about the first 4 episodes today, but if you see her like journey through this whole series, you'll continue to be blown away by the range she shows.
Have we reached peak murder, or does it just throttle up?
Let's just say it continues.
It continues. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so much murder.
I feel like, so much. There's a lot of murders. There's a lot of sort of like surprise little twists. So much happens in every single episode. And just to spend like a minute more with Dominique Fishback's performance in the first episode, her her best friend, and she describes her as her sister, Marissa, who honestly, such a great performance from Chloe Bailey as well.
Mhm.
She tells Dre, like, your face can look like a ton of different ways. Like you have this like changeable face. And
Yeah.
she really does, like, her face can do everything. Like it's
her eyes.
she has like this remarkable ability to go from Dre as like sort of, you know, anguished, tortured, heartbroken person to like kind of almost like a walking automaton sometimes, to like that drilled down focus of when she's like in her murderous rages, like, and then to do like just like a universe of other emotions too. I like, there is just like nothing that this person can't do, and I honestly, like, that's the heart and soul of this whole series. Even if people didn't like it, like, there's no way you could watch this and not be like, wow, Dominique Fishback's amazing.
I got to be honest and say I didn't really like it.
That's fair.
Yeah, it left me wanting to know more about her, and perhaps that's the problem with the series, in the sense that to learn more about her, I'll need to keep going, and I don't know if I want to keep going. I just feel like there's a sort of empty vagueness to her, and maybe it is the writing that I'm thinking about, that I don't really know. I don't get a sense of why or how this happened, that I understand when she kills the first person, because she blames him for her, you know, her best friend's sister dying. I understand that murder, but then it just goes, and I don't really feel like I got the point from that to the next one.
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, there's this element of her descent into madness through the story, and like everything that we're seeing is not like literal. Like, weird things happen in the show, like in it, like there's an episode that is completely like outside all the story that happens. Like the penultimate episode is like a sort of like a true crime, like reality type show about
Trying to catch her.
Yeah, exactly. About Dre. And so I think that they're deliberately kind of being like vague and confusing, and like showing you like how she's maybe hallucinating or she's not mentally well. And like, yeah, it's just like that. I think that's part of the storytelling technique.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that, because I feel like we're getting bits and pieces of Dre's backstory each episode to a certain extent. And the most that we get is when she finds herself suddenly in a cult. Also, like the people that Dre comes across, like, wow, what a group of folks that she is encountering on the road. Like, Paris Jackson,
Yes.
is
Let's talk about
amazing
that.
as
Yeah,
Haley.
yeah.
Like, honestly,
Her new black
Ever?
friend.
yeah, her new black friend.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen Paris Jackson in anything?
I
This is
haven't.
the
No,
My
this
first
is
time.
the first time I've ever seen her in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't personally. And honestly, like, Paris Jackson delivers that line
She
with
sure
the
did.
absolute perfect amount of the fact that, like, she knows full well that she is biracial, and her character, but like just like the brilliance of like that whole character detail. But also then when Dre finds herself in this cult, and she's you know, Ava is attempting to program her, and they go through this like extremely intense scene, which I thought was honestly genius, and Billie Eilish does a really incredible job in her role as well.
Yeah. First time I've seen her. I think it was her first role.
It's her first acting
Yeah.
role
Wow.
too.
Yeah.
Like, but her and like Dre and Ava together, and the small moment where she thinks to ask what color is the milk, and Dre says it's red.
Yeah.
And then you know that there's like, obviously we know that there's likely trauma in Dre's background. Like, she seems to be utterly alone in the world and completely untethered by Marissa's suicide. And, you know, it's a heartbreaking sequence of events that happens if it actually turns out that it happens the way, because that's the other thing. I don't know that for sure what we're seeing transpire.
That's what I'm having trouble
is
with
100%.
too.
But I like that. I really like that. And like that for me is really working, because I when we get the scene of her eating those plums, which plums are a wild choice to serve as a food at an after party in a club, but cool. And she's eating these plums, and it's filmed so like sort of lushly and like almost like erotically, like almost like a fetishized kind of like gorging. And then we find out that she wasn't just eating a plum, that she bit Nyjah.
Yeah. But we don't see it. And I imagine we'll later on we'll see it. But
we don't see it. But yeah. I was just like, oh my God, this show has no problem with completely like just upending our expectations of how it could transpire.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I'm expecting a sort of, if I continue to watch, I guess I'm expecting one of those scenes like in Sixth Sense where it's like, oh, and it all assembles.
Well, I think like to me, it's like I'm in some like it's Halloween and I'm in some like fun house of horrors, and every corner I'm like, whoa, and it's like totally scary.
And you know what I do when I get into those places? I leave.
But yeah, like it's unpredictable. Like you never know what's going to happen. It's like upending your expectations. It's not giving you what you think is going to happen. And I love that feeling of in a TV show, because I don't often get it.
I do too, but I don't know if it's, for me, if it's connecting with the this fandom idea. I don't know if that is working for me. Is it that she is that big of a fan, or is she just completely unhinged? Like, is it just a symptom of it? Eva. What was her?
I can't remember if it was Eva or Ava.
Not that it matters. But you know, when she sort of she sort of diagnoses her problem with that she's got with this phone. Obviously, if she had looked at the phone when the suicide was happening, you know, she's forever scarred. She's going to be holding on to that phone and looking at it forever and ever and ever and ever. And so there are those moments of trauma that I understand, but I don't know how, for me anyway, how it connects to the fandom.
I mean, I think it's just the fact that like that's what the two of them bonded by, but I feel like it's something that I feel like it's a question that like might be further solidified in the final 3 episodes. And I like the fact that it is only 7 episodes. They're, you know, 30 to 40 minutes long or whatever. So like I like the withholding and the screwing with me. I don't like it in all shows. But this one I feel like really along for the ride. Just because I think if they were dwelling so much in the fandom, Nyjah would have to be a much more realized figure. And I don't know that anyone has the budget to create the kind of songs and reality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they could artistically, like Beyonce, Rihanna, Taylor Swift, like all of these artists are like, I mean, they make good music. That's like their fan bases are responding to that music. And I don't know about you guys, but like, especially thinking about Daisy Jones and the Six and how hard it is to make like really good music, like that's fake within the universe of a show. Like, I think it could be really hard to have to create more than, I think we've heard like maybe 3 Nyjah songs so far. Maybe I don't know. I don't actually know for sure. They seem like a few of them seem like Nyjah songs at least.
Well, they released an album of Nyjah songs to go with the show.
Oh, perfect.
Wow, I haven't heard that. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Because I think like that is just a more, like that's like next level sort of inner show stuff. And so far I've really been impressed with the music and also like the guest selections and stuff.
Mhm.
I also do like the fact that like Chloe Bailey is such a protege of Beyonce. Like I saw Chloe and Halle open for Beyonce and Jay-Z, I think, when they were here a number of years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they were like 15 or
Yeah.
16. They were, or maybe no, 14 or 14 or
Jeez.
13 actually, now that I think about it, because they were really little. And they were so great. And just seeing how they have like sort of blown up is really nice, and seeing how great they both are on camera in these like really different ways. Like one is the Little Mermaid and one is Marissa in Swarm. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
what a wild contrast.
And did you see that Malia Obama is a writer on this series?
No, I
I
did
did,
not.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And apparently it was just announced like a few days ago that she's signed with Donald Glover's company and to direct her first movie.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
She was working on oh my god, what was she working on before? Because she's been in a few writers' rooms over the last like 5 years, I think. And also another great writer, Kara Brown, who you might remember
Oh
from
my
Keep It.
gosh, yes.
She's part of the Swarm
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Look at that.
writing staff as well.
I loved her.
Um,
She didn't die. But
yeah.
I just meant I liked her on the show.
oh, I loved her on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a big part of like why I listened to the show so
Yeah.
much. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, and Janine Neighbors, actually, I was the co-creator of the show and one of the co-writers on the show. I was reading through her background, and she's got this incredible background. So just like quickly looking, I don't want to like read it all or anything, but like she wanted to be a stage actress, but then she was really frustrated by the lack of Black roles in plays. And so she was encouraged to try like writing her own plays. So she was at Juilliard and wrote this play that became like a pretty big deal called Annie Bosch is Missing. And then she wrote this other play called Serial Blackface. And it's about a single mother coping with the disappearance of her son during the Atlanta child murders. And it won the 2014 Yale Drama Series Prize. And it had its world premiere in Atlanta in 2016. And she's also done a bunch of television, including Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, Unreal. Do you remember that show for like the 2 seasons?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And AMC's Dietland, and also the first 2 episodes of The Watchmen, or HBO's Watchmen, and another show called Away with Hilary Swank. And then she wrote on an episode of Atlanta and joined that group, and then that's how she paired up with Donald Glover as like collaborators.
Wow, that's a great resume.
She's incredible. Like I really feel like everything that I've heard her talk about and heard her sort of like reference in terms of what was important to her, like episode of Commotion, the podcast show. You've been on it, Lisa.
Yes.
And Kathleen Newman Bremang, who is wonderful and is like a editorial director at Refinery 29. She interviewed Janine on the red carpet at one point, and she recounted it for Commotion. And so she said, quote, "So Janine really wanted to stress that this is not a work of fiction, and these are very real stories," which I think is a wild thing to say if you've seen the show. But she said she wants people who watch it to project whoever they want onto the pop star in the show. It's obviously based on Beyonce, but you could project Taylor Swift in there if you wanted. And that they wanted to base it on the Bayhive, but they know, and she said they know it's going to be polarizing, her and Donald Glover. But Kathleen said, one of the most interesting things for me that Janine said was specifically about Black girls in fandom and why they wanted to explore that angle. She said that as a dark-skinned Black woman, she doesn't get to see a lot of representation in the world of entertainment. So when she does see herself in someone, she'll follow them to the end of the earth, which I can relate to, Kathleen said. And I do think that's what encapsulates some of the fervor around Beyonce and her fans. It's why such an intense connection, and that connection is really rife to this like dark, obsessive thriller. It's really ripe ground, I think. Whether you agree with how far the show takes that obsession, that's up to you. But I think it's going to cause a lot of conversation. And I think it does.
Well, it has. And it is right now.
Well, I mean, A-Dubs, you sent a really great link, I think, maybe this is a different one, but Janine was interviewed in The Hollywood Reporter and was talking about like the writer Demetrius Patterson asked her about like the audacity of the series because it's like, you know, it's gruesome and satirical and funny, and it could be like could be very upsetting to people, you know, watching, and like why she did it that way. And she said, I look at this like, why do white guys get to do all of this? Why do white guys get to have all the fun in terms of the Tony Sopranos and the Breaking Bad people? That space of psychological breakdown in violence to get something that you absolutely need, which is what drives the series, has always been reserved toward the psychology of white American men. Mm-hmm. And I think we were just really excited to explore what are the triggers for vulnerable women in America, and how could we just let her flag fly with this sort of brutal way of approaching the story. This Black woman is just destroying shiz because she is on a mission. It sort of feels like our Pulp Fiction.
Wow. Yeah. No, I can see all of that. That makes sense. That's all fair, very fair comment.
That was so interesting to me, like comparing her to like Tony Soprano, you know, just like wanting to allow a Black woman to be like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like the show, like, and especially like, I don't know, I just think like Janine Neighbors has been, you know, from the point of wanting to be an actor and creating work that could represent her or could be roles for other Black women like herself that haven't existed before. Like, there are so many narrow windows that Black actors have to fall into for the characters that are created for them. This blows that wide open. Like, Swarm really does, like, give us so many different people in this world. And particularly, like, I really can't recall ever seeing another character like Dre.
No.
Ever. Like, ever.
There's like so much going on. We haven't even talked about the role that like food plays in her murders.
I have some thoughts, but you two chat about it first.
Well, I was reading an essay by Halima Jibril in Dazed called "How the Horror Genre Subverts Toxic Ideas Around Women and Food," and how, you know, like throughout every episode, before and after every murder, she's just eating and kind of allowed to just like be a person who eats food. And it's not like, I don't know, like what this writer was talking about. She says, for so many of us, food just isn't just a substance we consume as nourishment and fuel. Instead, it's become a site of anxiety and guilt as we strive for the promise of happiness we were taught skinniness provides. Last year, the NHS announced that they are treating more young people with eating disorders than ever before, with the cost of living crisis exacerbating the issue. Additionally, the appetite-suppressing Ozempic is the word on everyone's lips after the New York Magazine cover story entitled Life After Food. While fat phobia continues to run rife in our society, the horror genre can be a safe haven from our diet-obsessed culture, acting as a space where contemporary ideas about food, gender, and the body continue to be denounced and challenged.
Yeah, I have to say my favorite scene with her and food is when her and the other dancers end up at that frat party, and she's just sitting on the bed eating pretzels and dip, and the guy says, "Can I pay you just to jerk off?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I'm going to keep eating."
Yeah,
that is also my favorite scene of Dre and food.
Yeah.
And when he says, "Will you bite the pretzel harder?" and she says, "No."
No, yeah.
Honestly,
like, this isn't
genius.
for you. This is for me.
Genius levels here.
Yeah, agreed with that. Yeah.
I have to say, I think I disagree that Swarm is subverting toxic ideas around food. I think Swarm is actually like on a lot of levels pretty anti-fat. They have the character who says that he basically no longer eats because he used to be 380 pounds, as if that is like the largest size anyone can ever dream of anyone being. And that his girlfriend had died of a heart attack. So that got him into like, whatever now he's basically like a different kind of eating disorder, exercising all the time and carrying no food in his home and denying himself literally everything all the time. And I gotta break it to you. A lot of people have heart attacks, guys. It's not just fat people. But cool information that continues to persist. I love it. And also the conflating of like that Dre, it sounds like, used to be fat and has grown into this quote unquote better body when Marissa's boyfriend offers to like take her virginity in a delightful, just one friend doing another a solid in the first episode. He's gross, and I didn't object to him being murdered either. Anyway, I mean, didn't deserve to be that brutally murdered, but like a little murder. Anyway, and then they continue to sort of like, they use food, like the way that her and the former fat man hook up and just gorge all over each other. And it's like for this like comedic effect, but also like its own kind of horror. Like that is absolutely, I am positive, what I feel like a lot of like anti-fat people think fat pleasure is about, is just gorging on food together until one of you throws up in the bathroom, and then you have to pull chips out of your hair. This is not
also in Seattle when she murders that guy.
He's
got the secret snack cupboard. And she goes in there, and that's where she gets all that food from. It's all hidden though in his little pantry.
Exactly. Yeah. And the fact that she she when she does eat, it's only after murders for the most part, or when she has
checked out sort of to me.
Or checked out, or like someone offers to buy her food or something, like when Haley buys her food. The flies all over the chicken wings. Like she also only eats junk food, Dre. Like that's like another sort of interesting thing. Anyway, I do not think that this show subverts toxic ideas around women and food. I think it reinforces them. And I'd love to have a little conversation with Halima Jibri about that, because what I saw in the first 4 episodes do not quite support that. Even though just because a woman gets to eat a few times in a show doesn't mean all the other stuff doesn't happen in it. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's a good point.
I have a question. What do you think about the time frame that it's very specific? This
2016 to
2018. And I thought, man, have we got that far away from it that we can have like period pieces about something that's only that many? Was the fandom, are we in this age now becoming a little more cynical toward that kind of fandom? And at that point, was it at a particular, they said like, this is when Beyonce had twins, and this is when there were certain things happening. And I feel like maybe now, like, I mean, Twitter is almost completely gone from people's consciousness. And I wonder if it's possible that we're watching a period piece.
I mean, to a certain extent, I think so. Because like, they're not really like active on TikTok or anything.
Nope.
Like they're making videos, but it's mostly, it looks like Instagram and like to their message boards and stuff like that.
Well, and I think, like a lot of the things they reference, are kind of from Beyonce's story around Lemonade.
Yeah.
That was 2016.
Yeah. So that was a different time, I feel like. But it also intrigues me that that's not that many years ago. What is that? 7 years ago. And I'm already remember back in 2016. Oh, what a simpler time.
Honestly, on a lot of levels, to a certain extent, yeah. Like a lot of stuff has happened in the last 7 years. I also think like trying to set it right now, you'd have to again contend with like sort of like a lot of other stuff. Like I don't think they fold in a lot of reality in other ways. Like we're not necessarily thinking about the context of 2016 to 2018, but I think it's like smart for them to place it there for a couple of reasons. Like if you think about the cults, that the women's empowerment cult, like
which is like the
all of
Nexium.
that kind of broke and like
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
that kind of broke in like what 2018 2019 somewhere in there. And like it's just it's kind of, I think it's kind of smart when you want to make a show but you don't want to set it too far back in the past and you still want it to speak to contemporary things. Like it's so smart to set it like 7 years ago.
No,
or
it's
6 years ago, you know what I mean?
That fascinated me that particular time was chosen, and it does feel in a weird way a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish wellness cults were a long time ago.
Oh
Well,
God, that'd be so
yeah,
great.
that's true. That's true.
Again, speaking of Yellow Jacket season 2, God, what a
What a journey. What a journey.
I gotta say, watching them both at the same time right now, Swarm is so much better than Yellow Jacket.
As far as
season
you don't
2.
have insomnia. So.
I can't watch them right before I go to bed, but I'm trying to really give Yellow Jacket season 2 a fair run, but it's been a tough go so far.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah.
But the other, and I know that we're gonna have to wrap soon, but I just want to also make mention that like Donald Glover, the co-creator, has received some pretty fair criticism, particularly from Black women, about his comments on the portrayal of like Dre and what he's said some stuff like this in the past. He's been asked to be accountable for his portrayals of Black women in the shows that he makes and what he puts out into the world. His most recent comments have not helped him appear to have, and a lot of people are very upset with him, and I think that is absolutely valid, of course, and the show has like there's a lot of valid critiques of the show as well, but also, you know, Janine Neighbors is a co-creator on this show and is very heavily involved behind the scenes as well, so it's not, you know, it's not just Donald Glover's baby here. This is, I think, Janine's show, and she has done an incredible job of, and Dominique Fishback has done an incredible job performing the character of Dre as well. So,
And
I just don't want it to take away. No one wants it to take away from what like Janine Neighbors has done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like, you know, great television or great storytelling, great art, like it makes you talk about it, right? Like it makes people want to critique it. It makes people want to react to it. It provokes things. And I think that this show, like I totally see what everybody is saying, like all the criticism and what you're saying about the fat phobia and all of these things, but it's just like, yeah, I love that this show is generating this much discussion and this much like making me think about these things so much.
Yeah, I know for me that Swarm pops like 1,000 bees attacking a flock of helium balloons.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think I'm gonna rewatch the entire thing.
Wow. Okay.
Amazing.
Jeepers.
Well, because like I know, you know, like one of my colleagues like was the one who recommended it to me, and she's seen it like 4 times already, and she's like, every time you see it, you see something different. Like,
oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a thumbs up just for its audacity and braveness. I have some reservations about it, and it's not my favorite thing, but I'm certainly, I certainly think it's unlike anything I've ever seen. So it gets a thumbs up for that.
Well, we also love to leave our episode on other things we also like. AG, do you want to go first?
Sure. So there's this store. I guess it's like a prom dress evening gown store called and this woman, like located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this woman does like prom consultations for women, and like the store specializes in like plus size curvy clothing. Like she does sizes 10 to 30 in like evening wear, and so girls from all over come drive like hours and hours to get a consultation with her. And she's been streaming some of them on her social media websites. It's called Juicy Body Goddess. And like, if you just want to see something nice happen to somebody, I would highly recommend following this account, because like, every few days she'll post a consultation she does, and it's just like that feeling of like seeing someone who may be a little bit insecure about buying a prom dress, or because prom season's coming up, and going shopping with their mom and having this like awesome woman in a store like help you find your dress, and to see them so happy. And then because like her site's so popular, she's been generating money from donations. Like people will donate gift cards, and so occasionally she'll just like gift the person the dress. And it's just like, it feels amazing to watch these things and see just like how happy people are about. Yeah. And so if you just like need a lift in your day, like check out Juicy Body Goddess.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm very happy too. Yeah.
I love it. I just like, I have it in my Instagram feed, and it'll just come up occasionally, and it just like will totally lift my day.
That's awesome. Thank you. Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to take everything off in a completely different direction. And my 1 hour of being like so miserable every week comes with season 4 of Succession. It is the final season. It is living up to its expectations of just watching wealthy white people just screw themselves into oblivion. And if that's up your alley, then this season is definitely one to watch. And I'm always impressed with a show that knows when it's done. I think Mrs. Maisel is on its 5th and final season. Ted Lasso is on its third, and it's going to be its final season, right? I think that's what I hear. That's what I hear. So more of that, please. Just know when your show ends. Give us some reason to watch, because just to watch these people spin their wheels, I would not be interested. Knowing this is all going to come to a head is why I'm interested. So Succession season 4, gotta say I'm really enjoying it.
I agree.
Echo. Succession season 4 has been fantastic so far.
I agree with the idea of like knowing when to end something.
Okay, fair. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
like the White Stripes.
Yeah, just call it a day. Not everyone's you too. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that's great. I am going to recommend, although I co-signed the both of your previous recommendations, I am going to recommend a compilation called The Art of. It's really wonderful. It is from Art House Music, which is Serena Ryder's label, and with her manager Sandy Pandia, and Chin and Jetty sort of produced this compilation. It's celebrating contemporary Black music and Black artists from the West Coast of Canada. So it's from the Western provinces for the most part. It's just a really wonderful, excellent record. It's 8 songs. Probably a lot of artists you maybe have not heard of, and some you definitely have. And it's great. It's one of my favorite things from last year, and I highly, highly recommend it. And it's out officially as of a couple months ago.
Nice.
Wonderful. Wow, lots to do.
So much to do and listen to and see and feel. And you can keep doing those things with us week after week. You can hang out with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Although, let's face it, we're not there that often, but it's fine. We've been around. Look, we've been around for a long time now.
We still like the 5 stars.
We're reliably in your ears every week, and we still love 5 stars.
5 stars. And thank you to Andrea Gin, who is our co-host and our producer here at Pop This Inc. Are we ink?
We are not.
We are not an ink.
No, this is entirely a labor of love. We have not incorporated it.
No, we have not. We do not have shares to sell you. This is not a Succession plot line. We are just us.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
What a wild Succession.
Who would take over the podcast?
Incredible.
All right. I'm gonna go
it's
to
more
sleep
likely
now.
we'd pay like $1,000 for Beyonce tickets.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that.
absolutely.
Only 183. 183. I don't feel too bad.
A bargain
A
at
bargain.
today's prices.
Okay, good.
Honestly, totally true.
Yeah.
Excited. Excited. It's not till September, so I'll have to wait. Are we saying?
I think that's reasonable. I mean, my deep confession. You guys know that I love Jenny Lewis so much. Just adore her. And I will take almost any opportunity I can to see her. And also am a old fan of Death Cab for Cutie and the Postal Service. She's touring with the Postal Service again for their Death Cab Postal Service double tour in the fall, and we're gonna fly to Los Angeles so we can see an outdoor show.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And you might bite her.
You know what? I've actually look. I'm gonna brag right now. I interviewed her and she asked for a hug. I did not bite her.
Oh, good for you. Because that's usually your trademark. So good
honestly,
for you.
yeah, I've got the snappers to do it. So.
Yeah.
That was me biting. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.